A very good evening, Zimbabwe. You are listening to Studio 7 from the Voice of America on Wednesday, May 6th, 2015. And this is Live Talk. I'm Blessing Zulu.
And I'm Kip Stube.
And tonight on Live Talk, we are going to talk about the plight of workers at Telecel in particular, and the country in general.
To join the discussion, phone us directly at this number 001-202-619-2077 and we'll call you back.
Live Talk goes out to Zimbabwe on our 909 medium wave frequency and on the 4930, 5940 and 15460 kilohertz shortwave, Monday through Friday at 8:30 p.m.
And on the internet, you can find us at www.voazimbabwe.com, www.voashona.com, and www.voindebele.com.
To affect my sales was Telecel was a more advanced communication line. Most of the people like Telecel too much more than bad. I wish those people could not close those networks because we are going to suffer again.
Telecel kuti vharwa zvitomboita because isusu tiri vanhu vanoshandisa Telecel ende tane makore kubvira ichinzi 023 saka ikavharwa tinenge tatorasana nehama dzedu dzakawanda kuti tizotangidza futi kuti titenge line rimwe rebhadhi rechii aisusu Telecel ndo yange ichinyatsotiitira
ikho ngani kuyasihlupha kakhulu njengezisebenzi ukuthi sesiyalahlekelwa nje imisebenzi ubengani nje sifananisa lindaba lokulwa kwamasela amasela nxa esilwa abantu bebuthana bebuza ukuthi libangane akucaci ukuthi babangani babe loke bedonselana yikho esikubonayo kuzuzisa ubuhlungu ukuthi yikho nje abantu ngani sebefaka indaba yepolitiki phakathi.
Once again, thanks for joining us, and this is Studio 7 Live Talk. And tonight on Studio 7 Live Talk, we are talking about the state of labor in the country. Gibbs.
Last week, the government of Zimbabwe announced that it had cancelled the operating license of Telecel Zimbabwe. The move is likely to affect some workers up to about 1,000. The workers are likely to join the growing list of workers who have been retrenched during the past few years.
Presenting his national budget in 2014, Finance Minister Patrick Chinamasa said in 2011, 2,130 companies closed and 19,191 workers lost their jobs. In 2012, 1,464 companies shut down, leaving 20,825 employees jobless. In 2013, 878 companies closed shop, rendering 14,499 people jobless. And in 2014, 134 firms shut down, throwing 9,280 people out of work. Both the public and private sector have been struggling to pay workers, resulting in perennial industrial action being taken by the workers throughout the country. Gibbs.
What are your views on this issue? If you wish to join this show right now, phone us directly at this number, 001-202-619-2077, and we'll call you back. That number again, 001-202-619-2077. For those that are using WhatsApp, the number is 1-202-465-0318. Ye Blessing kunjalo
honguka Gibbs nasi tinoda kuti tinge tichitarisa nezve mamiriro akaita zvinhu munyaya dzemabasa. Toda kuti titarise zvishoma kunyaya yeTelecel kune vashandi vanosvika ivo churu kana kuti 1,000 vanogona kupedzisira varasikirwa ivo nemabasa. Asi hatisingotaura kuTelecel, tiri kunzwa kuti makanzuro akawanda kunana Gweru, kunana Mutare, vashandi havasi kubhadharwa, vamwe kunana NRZ, kunana Zisco Steel vari kupedza mwedzi nemwedzi vasina kubhadharwa, zvaita kuti vapedzisire vononga svosve nemuromo. Gibbs.
Ye kunjalo ke Blessing sizwile kuti kolangale ke eMtare kuke kwaba lokutshengisela kulabo abasebenzela NRZ athi bekhuluma besithi abaholi abathola imali kuzobuya izisco siyakwazi ukuthi sokulesikhathi eside Blessing kwakuthiwa kuyalungiswa kulungisa qha loko ngalali tokona ngale kuzobuya ke eGweru nje obusitsho eHarare le ndaweni ezitshiyeneyo ungazani ukubhadala kuyahlupha kodwa ke uyaphuma imadlana but ungazani iphuma nzima singathi ke abaqhashi sebele izandla zabo ungazani zenziwe ngensimbi ukuthi zifake esikhwameni laphana kuzima mfowethu kuzobuya ke iTelecel Zimbabwe sizwile ke ukuthi license isikhanseliwe so ingakhansilwa kube umjokotho kube njalo abantu abafika 1000 baba ezitaladini bahamba ezitaladini khona sebengena labanye so kuyisipunepune nje ngase sikhangela ke singathi abantu abaningi sebekuyenza khona ukuthengisa amatamatisi ama juice card into ezinjalo so ngani kuyahlupha sifuna ukuzwa ngoZulu ukuthi kambe uthini ngalokho ye Zulu kandaba xa lifuna ukuthi sixoxe nasi inombolo lifone cellphone la khona ngapho ye khuluma nisizwe nasi inombolo 1202 619 2077 kunjalo mfowethu.
And of course, Gibbs says they say success has many fathers, but failure is an orphan.
Certainly.
When things are not working, there's always plenty of blame to spread around.
Exactly.
But of course, solutions have to be found to make the economy function again. Our panelists this evening, we are being joined by Mr. John Mufukari, Executive Director of EMCOS, that is Employers Confederation of Zimbabwe. Mr. Mufukari, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Thank you so much for joining us. And we are also being joined by the Secretary General of the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, that is Mr. Japhet Moyo. Mr. Moyo, good evening.
Good evening to you, sir.
Thank you so much for joining us. Gibbs, you can start the ball rolling.
Okay, let's start with you, Mr. Moyo. Let's trace the root causes of, some of these issues in Zimbabwe, especially when we're looking at workers. Now, come 1980, we know that the Zimbabwean government was focusing on what is called the Marxist-Leninist kind of policies. Then come 1991 to 2000, this economic structural adjustment program. Thereafter, we had Zimprest, and then we have Zim Asset right now. So when we look at workers, what was the impact of some of these programs or policies on workers?
As you correctly put it, I think we have witnessed a lot of economic blueprints over the past 34 years. Some of these policies were coming from the IMF, the World Bank. We're being told that these policies are going to mitigate against our economic decline. But what we have witnessed over the years, I think we have witnessed more job losses than employment creation. So it will appear like all the interventions or the so-called interventions by the government have not managed to unlock the economic growth in this country. I think we started to experience much of the job losses in 1990 when they introduced the EFAP. We were told that the EFAP is going to create competition, more companies are going to open up, but that's where we had the massive job losses, and it will appear like we did not recover from them.
Mr. Mufukari, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Yes, Mr. Mufukari, we are noting, sadly, that many companies are struggling to pay workers sometimes on time, and sometimes some workers are going for up to 6 months without pay. Can you tell us what is really happening? What is the problem?
It is what is popularly described as the cash crunch. But the reality is that there just isn't sufficient money circulating in the economy to be able to drive all economic activity. And therefore, you find there is economic activity taking place, but there is no money to drive this activity. As a result, everybody owes everybody else. And therefore, although you might
might be working and you are producing things and you are shipping that stuff out. Because you are not getting anything coming in, you are still unable to pay your workers.
Gibbs.
Now, according to the Economist Intelligence Unit, I have to read this blessing. So it says, in the late 1980s, about 40,000 jobs were being created annually, reaching a peak of 1.26 million in 1994. That is a 26% increase on 1980 figures. But that has been witnessing some kind of drop. So it says the fact that Zimbabwe is facing a rapidly increasing unemployment crisis is evident in the percentage drop of the total population formally employed, which dropped from 18% in 1965 to 11% in 1996. That is massive, man.
Indeed. Tine mumwe muteereri wedu wekutanga parunhare vamakosi makadii? Aiwa, isu tiripo. Nyaya iri mudariro mainzwa, tiri kutaura nenyaya yemabasa. Tinogona kutaura nezvekuteleseo kune vashandi vanosvika ivo churu kana kuti 1000 vanogona kurasikirwa nemabasa. Kana kuti muchingotiudzawo kuti zviri kukufambiraiwo sei imi munyaya dzemabasa, kana muine mubvunzo vedare vedu tina vamufukari vanomirira vashandirwi, tina vamoyo vanomirirawo vashandi.
Nyaya yekutanga yandinoona inini varumeka hurumende yedu haisi very serious nekuti iri kuti pane imwe nguva tinoda kucreata mabasa, at the same time vari kuuraya mabasa. Nekuona nyaya yatiri kutaura panapa ndeyekuti panenge pachinzi izvo tichacreata 2 million jobs, imoregedza makambani atombouya munyika macho kuti abatsire vana moti ngavakansele malicense avo.
Asika vamakosi, musati maenderera kumberi, hurumende kairi kuti pane mutemo uripo wekuendesa upfumi kuvatema, haingaregedzeka vanhu vachiita madiro aJeorgina vasingateeri mutemo, vachizvambarara pamusoro pemutemo nekuti zvinhu hazvina kumira zvakanaka.
Mugoma, ndikada kutaura nenyaya yemutemo ka. Tine mitemo ndofunga isingaverengeke yazvambararwa pamusoro payo naiyo hurumende pache zvayo. Tiri kuti titaure nekuti mutemo unonzi ngausevenze kwaamai Georgina, kwaamai Biju usingasevenzi, hazvina zvazvinobatsira. Nekuti onai kapane nyaya yekuti takanzwa kuti iyo teleso yakanga yatiri kupa 11% kuvashandi. Asi kunzi at the same time hurumende haisi kuzvibvumira izvi kuti vashandi vanofanira kunge varivo vari kubhenefita. Hapana chavari kuwana ivo. Iyo nekuda kuti iyo hurumende ndiyo iri kudawo 51% yacho iyo. Zvakanaka hongu, hatisi kuzvishora, asi ngatitarisiwo kuti zviri kubudisa vanhu vangani mumabasa. Handizvi? Saka ndandida kubvunza inini velebha avo kuti ivo kana kambani yakunzi yakundovharwa nehurumende, zvakutoreva kuti kambani zinoti prepared to pay vashandi vari kubuda basa ka mabenefits avo, vachabhadharwa nani?
Vamoyo,
iwo mutemo unoti chii?
regai tinzwe kubva kuna vamoyo. Vamoyo, vamakosi vari kutyira kuti vashandi pakavharwa kambani yakaita seteleseo yekunzi iri kunzi inenge ichikanzwirirwa rezinesi nehurumende, vashandi vanogona kubuda vasina chouviri sezviri kuonekwawo mune mamakambani mekuti vanhu vari ngonzi endai kumba.
Ichokwadi kuti pane manumbers muri kutaura nezvawo vari kuti 1500 vashandi vari formally employed kutelesel. Asi tinofanira kuziva kutarisa kuti pane ma-downstream beneficiaries, vaya vanozotengesa mustreet. Saka pane vanhu vakawanda vanogona kurasikirwa nemabasa kubva kwekuvhara kwetelesel. Haisivo vega vari formally employed kutelesel vanogona kurasikirwa nemabasa kana kambani yavhara. Pane zvakawanda zvinoaffecta economy. I think hurumende pane zvainowana futi kutelesel. Saka kwatiri chinhu chisina kunaka izvozvo kuti kambani ivhare. Hatizivi kuti dispute yacho yakamira sei, haisi kutaurwa, hazisi kubuda pachena kuti ndezvipi zviri kunetsa. Tange takatarisira kuti nyaya iyo yange yakaongororwa neimwe nzira so that mabasa akadaro haarasiki.
Ndinofunga vamakosi mazvinzwira.
Azvinzwa ko ivo ndakuda kubvunza umwe mubvunzo zvakare kuhurumende kuti inoona sei situation yekuti iri kutsaya kuita luma ma-investors munyika handizvi. At the same time it's staring away some other investors. Zvakurevei kuti vamwe vari kunzi yaiuya Zimbabwe takanaka handizvi. At the same time muri kuti vamwe budai hamusikuda kutedza mitemo yedu. Hatisi kuzvipinga hemindaiapa.
Aiwa, tinotenda zvikuru vamakosi. I think inyaya yaticharamba tichitaura makateerera henyu chirongwa. Aiwa nemiwo tinotenda zvikuru. Gibbs.
Yes, kwekwe baba Moyo ngesintu kancane. Nxa usukhangeleke abantu laba abakuthelisele bangalahlekelwa imisebenzi kambe kuyayenzakalani?
Ngingazi umbuzo nti uphuma kuphi. Esukhangeleke ukuthi nxa ikampani izavala ngitshilo ukuthi ngabantu aba-formally employed abasemahofisini ama-technicians labathize, kodwa kulabanye ke ababenefitayo ngokuthengisa okuvelela ku-telecell ngaba ngama-gift cards. So sikhangelele imuli ezithize ku-downstream ezizalahlekelwa imisebenzi. Sibona ngani kuya-affecta ke impilo zabantu. Izikolo zivuliwe kwamanje, abantu bakhangele khona bathole izimali bebhadala ama-school fees balabantwana abasesikolo. Abanye bafanele kube bebhadale ke abagulayo bebhadala ama-medical aid. So kuningi okwehlela abantu nxa bengalahlekelwa imisebenzi. Sibona ngathi khona ayisiyo into enhle ukuthi silahlekelwe imisebenzi ngalesi sikhathi. Lesikhangelele ukuthi imisebenzi aluba iyanda. Kodwa sibona ngani ayisikho uhulumende akukhangeleyo.
Yes, so what Mr. Moyo is saying is that, if the telecell workers lose their jobs, it's not only them, because the down industry kind of sector, there's a lot that is going to happen. People who are selling juice cards, people who are doing all sorts of jobs, related to telecell, are likely to lose their jobs. And here we're even including people who actually sell some kind of, the materials like handsets, all those kind of things. So he says this will have a very serious impact on, most people.
Regai timbodzoka kuna vamufukari. Asi vamufukari tichitarisawo mamiriro akaita zvinhu kuma-industry uku. Chii chiri kunetsa chaizvo kune varidzi vemakambani chiri kuita kuti makambani akawanda aramba achivharwa?
Chikuru chiri kutinetsa kushayikwa kwemari. Zvinhu business richiitika unenge uchida kuva uri kugadzira chunhu wochichipawo chunhu chiya kuno mumwe munhu uya munhu wokudzoserawo mari wochiseenzesawo mari iya iwewe kutengawo zvimwe zvaunonidha kuti ugoramba uchigadzira zvinhu zvauri kugadzira sehanditika. Zvino kana wochingogadzira zvinhu pasina mari iri kudzoka ndo zviri kuzoita kuti tishayiwe mari even neyekubhadhara vashandi yesu.
Aiwa, tinotenda rambai zvenyu muri parunare. Gibbs une mutereri.
Iye ndomnunzana ngeundlovu lapho se-South Africa. Blessing baba Ndlovu, ungaunjani?
Yebo baba, siyaphila baba unjani?
Nomphilile kakhulu. Kunjani khona ngapha eJosi?
Right baba Gibbs man.
Yeah, so ungathini ngodaba lwemisebenzi eZimbabwe? Ngani kuyahlupha phela?
Udaba lomsebenzi Gibbs ngathi luyahlupha mpela iZimbabwe. Besithi masiwabona lamakhampani efika besiba nalo ithemba lokuthi mhlawumbe izinto zizohamba zizilunge. Kodwa-ke mangabe lokhu kusenzeka kanje amakhampani lawo ebuyevala futhi lezi zinto zi-affecta kakhulu ngoba abasebenzi bona kungathiwa bona balahlekelwe umsebenzi. Kodwa kungabheka kakhulu lasebantwini abaningi like mina esigabeni sakithi eLupane lapho engibuya khona. Inetwork engathi iyona esebenzayo kakhulu i-telecell and iyasincedisa ngoba manje abantu sebekwazi ukufona bebiza ama-ambulance, i-communication yethu bisisibalula kakhulu. So so abantu lapha endaweni bese kukhona abantu like mina ngakithi umama ongizalayo ubethengisa lama airtime iteleseli yezihamba kakhulu and lento ibincedisa ifamily ubekwazi umama ukuthi naye ancedise lapha esikole abantwana bethola ukufunda so mangabe iteleseli sokuthi uyavala kusho ukuthi sokuyaqala phansi futhi impilo ukuthi kubuye kucatshanga ukuthi ngayini abantu bazaqala khona ukuthola futhi into zokuthi beziphilise ngoba leli lizwe lakithi liyomilo kokuthi ukulunga kwalo ifreedom abantu banayo kodwa asazi ukuthi kade kushuka kushote kuphi ukuthi abantu bebe nama bekwazi ukuthi nabo bethola izinto zokuzisebenzela like bekwazi ukuphila ngoba manje abantu abakhona ngisho nokwenza ukuthi abantwana bebe ne-education e-right because of ukuthi ama-families abadala kabasebenzi and laba abantwana sebekhulile okuyibona njengamanje sisemagoli hayi ukuthi ngoba manje siyakuthanda ukuba lapha egoli
hayi siyakuzwa kakhulu Ndlovini sibili kodwa hayi
ama-industry angcono khona ukuthi nathi sithole imisebenzi so ma kulahlekelwa futhi wona lama opportunity amancane ade sekhona kuzoba nzima kakhulu babugeli
hayi Ndlovu baba sibongile kakhulu uphenduke njalo phela
alright babe
siyabonga papa Ndlovu
siyakhala kakhulu man
so what Mr. Ndlovu is saying blessings that his mother was selling some juice cards Telecel juice cards in Lupane where he says Telecel has got a lot of impact there. That's one of the best networks when it comes to Lupane, according to him. So he says his family is going to be devastated because his mother was raising money and raising the family through that kind of money. But now if something goes out of what he thinks, it's going to be a problem, according to him.
Of course, we also have several messages on WhatsApp. The first one comes from Ashford, who says government has run down the parastatals by refusing to pay for rates and services. The little inflows from honest ratepayers is also being misappropriated by council executives who are there to please the minister and are doing nothing. And then Peter says, all these companies that are failing to pay workers in most cases are owned and controlled by indigenous people who just think they can take over everything from white people who used to run them effectively. Mana wevumira dzidza kune vanozvigona nguva yako ichasvika. Mapungwana says the workers who were overpaid, like the ones at Pismas, need to pay back the money and have it channeled to the needy areas. And Muchaneta anoti pari zvino tinoona kuti vashandi vetelesi vave pedyo nekurasikirwa nemabasa avo nekuda kwaiye mutungamiri wedu asina hanya vedu nyika dzekunze ngadzipindire zviri nani kutongwa hedu nevachena mukoma Muchaneta vanenge vari kugunun'una zvakanyanyisa. Martin anoti kanzuro yechitungwiza ndiyo imwe yemakambani asiri kubhadhara vashandi kwemakore maviri pasina muhoro apa vachidzinga basa vamwe vashandi ipo pasina mari. Munyaradzi says our government is not sincere to focus on the plight of its citizens. They promised to create 2 million jobs, but nothing has been done yet. Muketiwa anoti iye zvinoratidza kukundikana kwevari kutitungamira. Albert anoti hurumende iyi haina rudo nevanhu vayo, vari putsa basa tichishupika. It is wiser for Zimbabweans to change this type of government. Chimini says it's not the right time to cancel Teleso license when the company is able to pay its workers, unlike other parastatals which are failing to pay the workers even a cent. Jabulani says, please do a story about Zisco Steel. We were last paid in March 2012. Up to date, no pay and no allowances. Let's end here, Gibbs.
Yeah, let's hear what people are saying on Facebook. We've got Daniel Mokwena, who says, this is sad news indeed for those workers and their families, but I believe other telecommunications companies will employ some because of their experience. Then we've got Morven Kalisa who has got a hashtag. He says, jobphobic. Matota sizabapa amasimu balime bona bazamile mpela 2 million amasim card 1,000 abazaphelelwa ngumsebenzi kuzima madoda. And then we've got a message from Apel Maposa who says, this is very bad news indeed for the workers. especially these days when there's a problem in South Africa. And then we've got another message from Sakile who says, can you phone me right now? So I think we're going to call it.
Regatende kuna baba chenidza mwemuterere dari parunare makadi baba chenidza
tinofara makadi
tiripo muri ku South Africa kupi kuPretoria kwakamira sei yapera ere xenophobia
kuno kwakagara kwakangonyarara ina kwatambonye taiona yedu
aiwa zvinokudzwa mukatiudza kuti muri kuona sei nyaya yemabasa munyika muZimbabwe
nyaya kundokwadza ndetereso akuti chinondishupa ndechekuti inini ndakanga ndiri kumusha mazuva kwamakampeini vakuru vaitenderera nyika yose vachiti toda kuti ticreate about 2 million jobs handiti but kubva zvakatwara zvavakapinda mupauko sikaiko zvinezvi hapana chakaitika vaakutowedzera kutoondonga zviripo zvacho kuti vanhu vacho vashoma ivavoka vachitoshawa basa zvachose uye futi chotacho kuti nezvi vanga vachistragula kubhadhara vashandi mabhonasi kubva gore rapera kusikaiko zvinezvi kana kuwedzera mari vachitiwa havana mari handiti how much is Telecel contributing kufiscasi yenyika yacho yavanoda kuvhara yacho ivo vanoti havana handiti totiwo munhu ruchirema unofamba rigumbo rimwe nemadondoro wobva watora demo wobva watema rimwe racho rasara iroro inorarama sei
aiwa panonetsa ipapo
handi munozviona saka kuona kutata kuti ndini zvangu kuda kuti ndakutofunga sokuti zvimwe zvitomboremwa panhau nezvechokwadi zvokuti pane politics dziri mukati pane munhu wakuda pane wauri kutevera hawo hamene sekuti auverwa mumapepa but hazvigoni kungodaro kana aiwa komana
aiwa tinotenda zvikuru baba chedizane kupinda muchirongwa chedu
takanaka maita
tinotenda zvikuru Gibbs ngubani
yes sinova umoya lapha eciweni ke blessing baba moya kunjani baba moya ecingweni uyangizwa
Hello baba Nkosi.
Yes, sondele efonini baba moya sikuzwa kuhle baba.
Ngisondelile.
Kunjani moya khona lapha eBotswana?
Yazakala kuhle.
Yes, sikuzwa baba. Kunjani eBotswana khona?
eBotswana ku right gift.
Imisebenzi khona?
Khona imisebenzi khona kakhulu mine kakhulu.
Aha.
Manje nje manje lumelo lakho awusele umsebenzi.
Nxa sikhangele eZimbabwe kuthiwa kuyahlupha sibili le Telecel layo ngani izavalwa abantu balahlekelwa imisebenzi kambe ungathini baba moya
ngasho nje singalandisa nje kumeni Duty Gift endaweni le yakithi eZimbabwe ubaba vele mayele sandle esithathela abanye izinto zabo nabantwana bayafuza phela ngikhangela nje mangasho ngiqale ngikhangele nje kuye nje ubaba sibili from kumasoja kumapholisa thina seduze nemngcele seduze nebhoda ungakhangela okwenza ungamaphoyisa ezindleleni emfuleni lapha bechathisa amabhoda jampa bebadizisa izimali benza konke noma umfula ugcwele baba escape amasoja kithi ungakhangela lapha basuka khona makuthi abatransfer abala namoto ezibatransfer bahamba from Harare besuka ngenyawo ezezongena eBulawayo isuka eBulawayo ezezongena khona lapha ePlumtree nenyawo engipholisa ungangena ama-police station ala kithi khona la
bamba moyo bamba kancane siyabuya kuwe sifuna uthathe ikhefu kancinci nje elincane ke lawo sihlobo ubambe khona lapho ungayikhatshana.
And Mr. Mfukari and Mr. Moyo, please do stay on the line. We'll be back after a short break. And for our radio listeners, as you know by now, we are streaming live. Simply go to www.voazimbabwe.com and press on LiveTalk. This is Blessing Zulu.
And I'm Gibbs Dube saying stay tuned.
for those of you who are just joining us, good evening. And this is Studio 7 Live Talk. And tonight on Live Talk, we are talking about the state of employment in Zimbabwe, where many workers continue to be retrenched, and others are complaining that they are going for months and months without pay. And of course, the captains of industry are saying there is no foreign direct investment, and as a result, it is very difficult to do business in Zimbabwe. Gibbs.
And our guests tonight are Mr. Japhet Moyo of the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions and Mr. John Mufukare of the Employers Confederation of Zimbabwe. And I think when we went for a break, there was a caller on the line. But before that, I want to tell Zimbabweans that if you want to join the show right now, here is the number. Call once, we're going to call you back there. So the number is 001-202-619-2077. And for those that are using WhatsApp, you can send a message on this number, 1-202-465-0318. Yeah, Baba Moyo. Asiqhubeke sipokuthi kafu njengamafitshane. Usathini lapha?
Ngisasho nje kanjalo Bhutikisi.
Yebo.
Ngiyabona nje. Isenzakala amakhampani evala yenza njani? Kwenza yibo ngoba nayo uhulumende kanayo imali kabhadala amaphoyisa la. Ungazi ukuthi iziphoyisa uthi nasi isigebenga singihlasele la. Uyalala kule isigebenga basuka ngani khona le kudemphoni kangaka bezofika endaweni yaseBruna Bay into edile khona le ngenyawo. Ebusuku akula. Kunjalo nje namakhampani wonke alavalwayo nje. Omnanga maye ngabona ukuthi kabasadize amakhampani nalawa. Evala. Evala njengoba isivala nje kusho ukuthi ingasadizi lokhuzi. Njengawo wonke phela abantu bezimbabwe wonke zona izikhulu izibili ezivala amakhampani ngoba wena abantu babefuna ukudizela kuphela. Ngale kade bengayidizela nje television esebengeke bezivale. Ngoba bona bavele bazivumela bezidele bona bodwa mnangagwala.
Yes. So
ukuthi sibavotele bakuthola yeqiniso ngakubalisa nje sithi sibalise kakhulu sithi kwenza ukuthi akula mnotho umnotho ugcwele eZimbabwe ukuthi ugcwele ezigomeza bomnangagwe la.
Siyacabangela
Kuhlale khiko nje kuphela.
Kunjalo mnumzana. So ke hayi sibongile
sibalele isikupheze kuphela nje bevala maye ngayevala anti bathathela abantu amaplazi kungakhangela amaplazi lawa ebelama more than 200 300 and something 1000 abantu konke laba balahlekelwa umsebenzi naye futhi manje television bayivalile mabeyivala kulahlekelwa wonke umuntu umsebenzi ngenxa yokuthi kuthiwa akayisadizi vele obvious ayazinto eziba ukuthi ukudizwa kuphela.
Emoyo baba hayi sizwile siluchayile kuzwele baba.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu Bhutikisi.
Siyabonga kakhulu ke Emoyo ungadina kusasa khona lapho ke eBotswana.
Hayi singabonga singeke sidine ngoba siyalamba Bhutikisi ukuthi sidine ukuthi ngoba sisisuta nje.
All right papa Emoyo.
Kuphinde size kuvoice ku studio 7 la.
Hayi thank you very much.
Ngoba sikolotha njengamathola abononi.
Oh yes.
Number so siyahlala sikhona kuphela beze besizwe ukuthi sesikwazi ukuthi bona bavala amakhampani ngoba basuta bavala ngoba ingasadizel ikhampani bavala.
Wathi singenisa abanye moyo. Sibongile kakhulu baba.
Into ezibonayo anti ngitshela ukuthi mina ngiseduze nomngcele ngiseduze nomfula.
Wathi sifaka abanye moyo hayi sesizwile moyozi. Inkosi busise baba. Kunjalo ke. Mr. Moyo is very angry. I think you could hear him, right? So he's saying the other thing is, there were some farms that were forcibly taken over by, alleged ZANU-PF supporters. And he says, at the end of the day, many people lost their jobs in that particular sector. So he says we must look at it as well. And he says Zimbabwe is endowed with many, many natural resources. But the problem is tapping them, He says that's a big challenge. And at the end of the day, he says there's a lot of corruption in the country. It starts from the bottom going up. So he says, if that is not nipped in the bud, that's going to be a problem.
Maybe let's go back to Mr. Mufukare. Mr. Mufukare, you can tell that people are really angry. But what can be done to make Zimbabwe work again?
That's a very difficult question indeed. first thing that we've got to do is to make the world believe in us again. One of the major reasons why we don't have any money coming into the country is because of the perceived country risk factor. Now, the only way we will address this country risk factor is when people get faith in us. When there are no policy revisions, policy inconsistencies, and we abide by the rule of law, respect property rights like every other company does. Now, when we don't do these things, there really will not be much faith in us. And as long as people do not have faith in us, they are not going to put their money where they are not sure that they can get their money back. So basically, that is what our problem is.
Mr. Moyo?
Yes, I intended to agree with my business colleague. I think in English they call it confidence. I don't think people have got money outside the country. People have got money inside the country who like to put their money on the table. No one wants to invest, whether it's a local business person. That's why sometimes you find people talking about the informal economy is flourishing. Why is it that we see very nice cars in our roads? Why is it very nice buildings being built around nice houses being built in the northern suburbs of Harare? What it means is money might be there somewhere, but no one wants to put that money in the formal market. Because money is supposed to be in the formal market at the banks, where Mfugari and others can go and borrow and expand, and borrow, pay salaries, borrow, retool, equip. I don't think that money is available for that. So it is because people are not sure whether if they put their money on the table, they're able to recoup it. If I invest, I have this property, is it going to be mine tomorrow? People, these laws, they change overnight. They change in political rallies. So people are not sure about the direction in which the country is going. We might be putting on a brave face as the politicians are doing here, but we are not going anywhere until we fix our politics.
Yes, lo mnumzana ke uSihlobo lapho osegoli njalo nje. Baba Sihlobo ungawutshona njani?
Sithonile ngitshona njani?
Hayi bijana Sihlobo. So uzwile lamhla ukuthi sikhuluma ngani? Imisebenzi yahlupha kakhulu eZimba. Ungathini baba?
Udaba lolu lwenkampani ye-Telecel. Sizogxila ngayo kulona ngoba siyabona uma ngabe kusenzakala lezi zinto ezifana nalezo elizweni. Kubisela emuva kakhulu umnotho welizwe ngoba ngathi uyabheka amankampani uma ngabe izinto sokuthwala kuntengantenga okufana nalokho. Kwenza lo mnotho welizwe kakhulu ugcine susiba phansi wona vele sisacathula. Ngoba uthola abantu uma ngabe izisebenzi ezifana nalezi ezibaliswayo ukuthi uma ngabe zikhona kwabe ukusuka emsebenzini. Kube khona labanye abantu abaningi abafuna umsebenzi. Uma ngabe futhi kusuka lezi izisebenzi ezisuka emsebenzini nemankampani usenzakala kanje kufaka ubuya kakhulu elizweni. Kodwa bese ubona ngale ukuthi thina inkinga lezifana lezo izinto ezisuka khona ngale phambili. Ngoba lo mkhaba ukuthi mina kumele kubhekiswe lolu daba ngoba kwenza ukuthi inotho elizwe ibe phansi omangalisayo nje kube inhlekisa kwabanye amazwe nje abangabe bebedekile kusenzakala elizweni kanje.
Kambe kungalungiswa njani konke lokhu baba Sihlobo okuhluphayo?
Mina bembona laba abathetha abafaka labo mnanga laba bakhona ngabe kukhona ukuthi network ukhona okunye balukwenza inkampani yakwa-Telecel egcina ingasakwenzi kwenye indawo. Singathi ngasithi endaweni ezifana lokufumbathisana madala esayithi owenza ukuthi igcine kukhona eminye ingasakukhiqiza lapho edikhiqiza khona wagcina songabe sekusuka bayekela kufana kusizakala into ezifana nalezi.
ye mase ye qhubeka
kumele bekuthathele inyathelo nalokho ngoba akuseke sikubonile kwaTeleseni so ngabuya kuthelele kwezinye indawo gcine sisenzakala kwezinye indawo gcine inhlupheko sizima kakhulu ngoba besibhekane lobunye ubunzima futhi obunye ofana lobunzima basezingafo kuya manje sibhekana futhi yithi masaqathile emnotheni
ye mase singathi sivale lawo khonapho ukuthi nxa usukhangele okwemsebenzi pho izamila ngaphi imisebenzi leyi baba Sihlobo
akula msebenzi ongamila ngoba mangathi insinya yakho nje uyenzile ayivundise abandle ubuye imvula unganethi ubhekele ethi izoneta ukuthi sokuyindlala esingene ekhaya ngoba manje imisebenzi wayesizithetha hayi imisebenzi kanjalo manje makuvaleka lapho kumele kube amathuba omsebenzi khona ile ihlupheke enkulu kakhulu somele nje uhulumende kubone lokhu impela kube liqhaza elikhulu ezanye ngamandla wonke le mali lena le encane kuzama ukuthi kwenze something bekukhumizwa nalabo izisebenzi lapha abaphethe ngale inkampani abathese kube khona okunye wayenza ukuthi kube khona ukudla isinkwa thizeni
hayi siyabonga kakhulu-ke mnumzana Sihlobo kona ngapho ke eSouth Africa ungadilwa kusasa mfowethu
siyabonga nami
yes so what Mr. Sihlobo is alleging is that he suspects that maybe there's a lot of corruption that is going on in government, you know. Maybe Telecel did something that maybe it never used to do, you know. Or maybe they were supposed to grease somebody's palms, you know. But he says, anyway, we don't know, but we suspect there's something big in there. So he says, at the end of the day, there should be some investigation that the government should do. Because you cannot just let a company lose a license, and that's it. No.
Let's turn to our guests briefly before we take one or two more callers. Let's start with you, Mr. Moyo, this time. Mr. Moyo, what happened to the tripartite negotiating forum? Are you still talking? We keep on hearing you saying, oh, maybe next week, maybe next week. What's happening with that?
Yes, maybe next week, because government has indicated they would like to resuscitate that. It is our hope that this will come to fruition. Maybe that will be the starting point where, provided we are able to agree on the issues. So we are looking forward to that initiative. We have just been advised that there is a proposal that we resuscitate the TNF. Yeah.
And Mr. Mufugari, the TNF?
Yes, we are very anxious that the TNF should meet as soon as possible because there continues to be confusion amongst social partners exactly which way we are going. We seem to be agreeing to go in a certain direction, and then all of a sudden the goalposts change again. And it's important that we sit down and get some consistency into our strategies.
Yes, we baba khonapho baba Moyo. Uzwile lapho mnumzana uMfukare ekhuluma ngokuthi kumele ukuthi umhlaba wonke ube lethemba lokuthi eZimbabwe kuyalunga. Kutshintshwe kuqulwe kumbe ngifake njalo. Kuguqulwe imithetho ethize kulungiswe konke. Kodwa kungaqaliswa ngaphi ke Moyo?
Ngaqala ngokuthi sithi indaba esikhuluma ngayo kucace ukuthi indaba yeTelecel udubo lungaphi, because okwenza abantu bekhulume ngalendlela ukuthi abantu bathi bakhona abafuna ukufunjathiswa, bakhona ukufuna ukubhadalwa. uTelecel usehlulekile ukunika abanye imali. So nxa indaba yeTelecel ingaqondanga kuba nzima ukuthi kube lo muntu ngaphandle kwelizwe ongathi ufuna uinvesta imali yakhe elizweni elinjengalelo, ngokuthi lali company yakhe engayiluza kusasa. Loba ngumuntu ophakathi kwelizwe angazi akhe ngifuna ukuvula ikampani ngokuthi engayithathelwa loba nini, ngavala loba nini. So izinto ezinjengazena ezenzakala kuTelecel aluba asizozinto esizibona sisenzakala. Lemthetho njalo sikhuluma okufana nayo, singakhulumi izinto izinto esizishintshayo ngelanga singathi indigenization imangali indlela sikhuluma oqondileyo ngani siyaphiceka kusasa bakhulunywa lokho kusasa kukhulunywa lokho so abantu bayesaba nje ilizwe lethu alibe lilizwe elokuthi umuntu ongaphandle uthi ngingafaka imali yami ngingakwanisa ukuphuma layo yini nxa sengiyifuna ikufanele sikulungise khonokho.
So now what Mr. Moy is saying is that this telecell issue is a bit sensitive to investors. You know, he says if it is not handled very well, no investor can believe in Zimbabwe being a nation where, to invest. So he says first there must be some straightforwardness to say exactly what is happening. And if ever something is found that maybe is not going right, people must be told, because no one will believe in what Mr. Mfukare was actually talking about, making people believe in Zimbabwe, Maybe
Mr. Mfukare, before we take our caller, you can come in there. Mr. Moyo is saying that it's not very clear what's happening with Telecell. Do you want to comment on that?
No, I just want to agree with him. We are not sure whether it's a shareholders issue or it's a question of not paying the licensing. We are just not sure exactly what's happening in Telecell. Telecell itself says they have an agreement with government whereby they are going to be paying for their license fee over 7 years. Government hasn't come out in the open to say whether this is true or not. And Telecell says they've been entirely up to date with their payments. So really, I entirely agree with Mr. Moyo. We don't know what's happening at Telecell.
Okay. Regatiende kune mutereri wedu Samanyika makadi. Samanyika muripo iri parunari.
Tiripo parunari.
Makadi.
Tipero makadiyo.
Na nyaya iri mudariro mainzwa ndemabasa zviri kuitikawo kunana Telecell, tipewo pfungwa dzenyu.
Kunana Telecell ku tombodzira Telecell mazuva akati ndijani timbotozi emari dziri muTelecell rasatatora maakaunti medu.
Muri kubvumidzwa here kutora mari dzacho, zviri kufamba sei?
Zvinonetsa vanenge vati kunokukure nematele vachina totora mari mashava zvitombotinetsei ndijani.
Muri kupi mimi?
Atumanika lendi.
Okay, saka mari dzacho munonotora kupi?
Kuharare.
Okay, saka muri kuti nguva ngaimbowedzerwe?
Ndambowedzera nguva mbiga.
Saka imamushandisa Telecell nguva yese ikavharwa, kunze kwemari yenyu ndeapi matambudziko amungati mukasangana nawo?
Telecell namba dzevakunotetara nawo Telecell dzevabhizi zvinenge zvakutonetsawo.
Zvinenge zvaakunetsa.
Notera kutitaura sei nawo watetara nawo amabedu.
Aiwa, tinotenda zvikuru. Tichazokufonerai tichinzwa kuti mune mazokukwanisa here kuti munge muchitora mari dzenyu.
Mafona techikudheta zvikwanisa kudzipura here.
Aiwa, tinotenda zvikuru Samanyika. Asi muri mukomana wechidiki?
Tichiri wechidiki.
Alright, tichazokufonerai pachirongwa chedu chevechidiki.
Mune maita basa chaizvo.
Aiwa, tinotenda zvikuru.
Maita basa.
All right, bye for now. Okay, Samanyika is saying, they still need to go and withdraw their money. I don't know if it's called telecash. And he's saying they have to go to Harare, and it might be a bit problematic. His request to the government is that they should at least give them more time. They were given 30 days, I think, to wrap up. Gibbs.
Yes, wewe njalo ngesintu baba Moyo. Poke konke khona ku Telecell kuya ngaphi khona kunjoba ngazani kuyahlupha so.
Umbuzo ozima kumangalisayo. Sibona ngathiwa nje sise phakathi kodubo. Nxa sinazange sihlanganisa imqondo, abantu bangazange bekhulume ngamazwi aqinileyo. Kungaba ludubo esingahlala lalo okwesikhathi esithize esilandelayo. Ngikutsho njalo ngokuthi silaloku esikubiza sithi inequality elizweni kathesi labo abahlezi kakuhle laba abaphezulu abazibambileyo okay kukhanya basesela imali so ibo kusasa bahambela uZulu ke othwele nzima ulokhu sasakhala kodwa labo abahlezi kakuhle abazibambileyo ke angaza ke besukume ke kumbe betshintshe izinto ungazange belomuntu obakhulumisa ngamandla so ngokubona kwethu nje sibona ngathi into le nxa ingazange iqiniswe hayi laba bantu basesekhona nxa silalela indlela abakhuluma ngayo abaningi bayakwazi ukuthi kona sizwa bathi kona sokule turnaround lapha elizweni izinto sesihamba kakuhle abakuboni lokho esikukhuluma kwamanje nxa singavula amaphepha kusasa amaphepha abe-state lama-radio ungani asozimbabwe esikhuluma ngayo iyabe izimbabwe ichiye la lesikhuluma ngayo ibo izinto zikahle so ngibona ngani sikhuluma into ezichiyeneyo lapha
yes awuzakhulu baba Moyo. So you were saying that this issue tell us an issue he says it will have a very negative impact in terms of the image of the country and at the same time he's raising something else he's saying that people in government positions, they've got their own country called Zimbabwe and other people have got another country called Zimbabwe, but they live in the same Zimbabwe. So he says it's so complicated that for those that are in power everything is normal, but for people like him nothing is normal.
Well, let's read some more messages that are still coming up on our WhatsApp page. George says, every day employees are losing their jobs in Zimbabwe. Companies are closing. Where are those people going to work? Government should do something in time. That's why people are being killed in South Africa. It's because our economy is declining every day in Zimbabwe. Please, let's unite as Zimbabweans for the betterment of the country. Wise words indeed. Love More says, as for pay issues, they have to confiscate all cars that are owned by the managers and leave them at police stations. Vozodzosa kana vapiwa mari dzavo. Tawanda says, steel makers ndiyo imwe yacho. Ndofunga havasi kubhadhara. Chirinda says green fuel is the best pakusabhadhara vashandi vayo. Okay, those are some of the comments, gifts that we have. I think there's also one that you can probably read later on in the belly.
Prince. Coming back to you, Mr. Mfokari. So, if you are in such problems as a country, how do you get out of this kind of big problem?
That is almost impossible to answer at this question, at this point in time. However, what we would like to see is a situation where we try to keep the few companies that are still working. And this means that we have to sit down together, the management on the one side, the workers on the other side, and see how we can keep our companies working. Because the alternative is those companies closing and then everybody becoming completely destitute. Now, how we do this is easier said than done. But I am sure that if both sides are open and transparent and they engage with a will to do what's best for their organization and their country, a successful solution will be found.
So before maybe going to Mr. Jafet Moyo, I'll read what Mr. Prince sent. So Prince uti use Cosmos City ekoli uti mina angiboni luphela lolu dubo lokugunyulwa kwezisebenzi lokungaholi ngesikhathi ukuze luphele ukuthi iZANU-PF iphume esikhundleni. I'll try to translate as much as possible, right? So he's saying that this problem of workers being retrenched won't end. Even the issue where workers are not getting their salaries on time won't come to an end. So he says the only end to this problem is for ZANU-PF to be removed from power. That's it, according to him.
But of course,
Translation,
not violently.
Yeah.
If people are not happy with the government, they know what to do. It's via the ballot, not the bullet.
That's it.
Yes. So as long as it's peaceful, we support it. But if it's violent, no. Say no.
So I'll add something to Prince. Prince, if you are listening, peacefully.
Indeed. Regai tidzoke kuna vamufukari tichitarisa tichienda mberi pane zvakambotaurwawo nevamwe asi vashandi havanyanyoteerere havo. Pane nyaya yekuti vamwe vari kuti ngatibvise mabhonasi, vamwe vari kuti mari dzacho ngadzimbokatwe senzira yekuedza kugadzirisa upfumi. Munotiwo kudiva mufukari?
Ini ndinoti kana makusvika pastage yakaita saiyoyo, makusvika pakukwanisa kuona kuti zvinhu zvingagadzirisika sei, hatikwanisi kupanana zvinhu zvisipo. Saka as long as vashandi nevashandirwi muchitaurirana kuti mamiriro akaita kambani yedu akamira akadai izvi, hazvigoni kuti mubvumirane kuti ngatingoitai zvisipo. For instance, hamukwanisi kupanana bhonasi risipo. Hakuna bhengi iko zvino rinokweretesa kambani mari yokuti iinde kunopa vashandi. Hakuna zvakadaro. Saka kana pasina, then zvechokwadi hamuna zvamunokwanisa kuita. Apawo ndinotaura ndichiita kuti tinofanira kuva tiri kubudirira pachena pane zvese zvatinenge tichitaura. Kana tikazoitawo masituations ayo kuti munhu anoti inini mari handina, asi ipapo unoenda unotenga mamotikari ari kutaurwa aya, aiwa apo hapasina kubudirana pachena, handiti ka? Asi tikabudirana pachena chaizvo tikazotaurana kuti mamiriro akaita kambani yedu ndeayaya, then tese pamwe chete tichakwanisa kuita decision yokuti topanana here mabhonasi kana kuti mari yemabhonasi hapana. Zvoitika vanhu muchibvumirana.
Mr. Moyo, your last word?
Ichokwati si ipapo tinenge tisingazobudirane pachena. Ndambotaura kwekutanga kuti tingatarisa motikari dziri parodhi muHarare, tingatarisa dzimba dziri kuvakiwa, zvinongoratidza kuti pane vamwe vanayo mari, vamwe vanenge vachiti havana. Saka hatisi kubudirana pachena. Asi kana tabudirana pachena, vashandi havarambi kuti horo ngariregere kukwira nekuti kambani haisi kuita zvakanaka. Nenyaya yekuti kana kambani ichiita zvakanaka panopuwa. Asi vashandi kana vachiziva kuti tinogara tichitaurirwa kuti kambani haina mari, asi tinoona vakuru vakagara zvakanaka, zvinonetsa kuti vashandi vabvume kuti horo ngariregere kukwira, nekuti vamanagers vari kutambira ma200,000 ivo vashandi vachipiwa ma200. Hazvimboenderani. Saka tiri kugara upenyu hwakasiyana kana nyika yakasiyana netiri kuona tese.
Aiwa, tinotenda zvikuru. Tinovimba kuti zvinhu zvacho zviri kunetsa zvichagadzirisika, nekuti vanhu mavanzwa vari kugunun'una nenyaya yemabasa nenyaya yekuteleseo. Asi tinongovimba kuti vehurumende vacho vari kuteererawo vachagadzirisa zvimwe zvinenge zvichitaurwa nevanhu. And let me take this opportunity to thank our guests this evening, Mr. John Mufukari, Executive Director, Employers Confederation of Zimbabwe, and the Secretary General of the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, Mr. Japhet Moyo. And of course, we want to thank our callers, our viewers, our listeners, those who sent messages on Facebook and WhatsApp, and of course, our team behind the scenes, our producers and engineers. Signing off, this is yours truly, Blessing Zulu.
And I'm Kip Stube saying good night, Zimbabwe.